The Celtics Talk podcast is presented by 24autogroup.com. 11 locations across New England.
What's up, everybody? POSTGAME POD, episode 65, coming to you after the Celtics capped their 5-game road trip with a 123-107 triumph over the Utah Jazz. Celtics finishing 3-2 on this trip. If you'd asked me, I probably would have preferred to win one of the first two games, ideally that Denver game. But when you start 0-2, beggars can't be choosers. Celtics win 3 in a row, regain a little bit of momentum, come home with still a very healthy lead over the rest of the Eastern Conference, where the number 1 seed is locked up. And now we're kind of focusing on the NBA as a whole and whether they can get to the finish line of potential home court advantage in the NBA Finals. Here's what we got coming up. Abby goes one-on-one with Derrick White, and maybe a little bit of Luke Cornett interjected after the win in Utah. Give even more Luke in the locker room because, look, people just can't get enough. Bench was really good on this trip. We should probably be gushing a whole bunch about them in this podcast. But no, it's been a while since I got a chance to gush about Derrick White. And so that's where I want to start. I really think, and I would kind of, before I go too heavy on Derrick, let's give Stock Exchange its own moment here. I thought Derrick and Drew were phenomenal in this game. On a night you don't have 3 starters, where KP, Al, and Jaylen Brown sit out, you knew there was going to be a need for a little offensive boost. And in Portland, it felt like the bench gave you that. Sam Hauser being excellent in that role. Tonight, Derrick goes for 24 points, 7 of 11 from 3-pointers. Also brings it on the defensive end with 3 blocks. Drew Holiday, 16 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, a block. They were just everywhere on both ends of the court. Derrick shaking off some rough shooting to start this trip. I believe he was 1 of 14 on 3-pointers over the first 4 games of this trip. Didn't make his first 3-pointer of this trip until Portland, and even then I think it was 1 of 5 that night. But he even mentions it in his post-game interview with Abby. He told his dad he was just going to let it fly tonight in Utah, and maybe being back at familiar altitude for a guy who grew up in Colorado helped him because he couldn't miss beyond the arc, really sort of set the tone. Celtics go for 44 points in the first quarter. Just another monster 70-plus point first half. And follows a familiar script where the Celtics, maybe let go of the rope, or at least the other team makes a little bit of a charge in the third quarter, and Celtics just bounce back, a 20-0 run, spanning into the fourth frame to put this thing away. Drew had about probably 5 passes in this game where I was just like, just such a high-level basketball IQ, little touch passes, mostly to Luke Cornett, whether it was cutting out of the corner, or I think there was one play where he got a feed from Tatum and just pushed it right up for a Luke Cornett alley-oop. Again, Luke deserves a lot of credit this trip. Felt like he spent half the time dunking or Cornett contesting or cracking jokes. But Drew Holiday certainly had a little chemistry going on with him tonight as part of those 8 assists. But here's the numbers I want to give you on Derrick White. So I think we can safely say that Derrick was in a bit of an offensive slump in recent games. So not a great start to the trip, at least in terms of making shots. Had opportunities in Cleveland. Thought he missed some really open shots against Denver, which was weird because, growing up there, I just thought that had potential to be a big night. Coming into this one, I'm thinking, oh, man, Will Hardy, his old sort of position coach when he was here in Boston, plus their familiarity from the Spurs. There was someone that should know how to kind of bottle up Derrick White. It would probably be Will Hardy. Nope, just the opposite. Derrick has a monster night. He is now number 1 in the NBA in offensive rating among qualifiers, 122.5. He is number 1 in net rating, plus 13.6. That's a number I've been monitoring all year. My preseason prediction was that he would finish atop the NBA in that number. And remarkably, he is still ahead of the field. He is plus 570 and plus minus through 61 appearances. Tatum shuffling a little bit closer. Tatum is up to plus 548. Next closest is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at plus 521. Then Nikola Jokic at plus 491. that's a trio of MVP candidates. And I know Tatum's case took a dive this week. Jokic is going to win that award. SG is going to be second. And yet it's Derrick White positioned well ahead of them. And I just think there's going to be nights like this along the way. Not necessarily where you're so shorthanded that you need Derrick White to fill the offense that you're not getting with Jaylen Brown sidelined or whatnot. But just there's going to be moments that in big games, Derrick White needs to give it the game what it needs. And it might just be offense in that moment. My mind always races back to the first home game of the year against Miami, and Derrick really kind of ups his offensive output, really carries you on that end to get to the finish line of a win. And that just sort of, to me, set the tone. Like, most nights, it's going to be Jaylen and Jason taking a bunch of shots, running most of the plays, trying to get everybody else involved, and being a big factor in the scoring output. And Derrick will have a whole bunch of nights where he scores, between 8 and 12 points, but has a bunch of assists. In fact, I think before tonight he'd had a pretty long 5-assist streak, down to 3 tonight, but because he had to put up a lot more shots than he was, instead of just moving it along like he normally does. And, not to take away, too, like what he's doing on the defensive end and still having energy to be great on the offensive side. So this was just, to me, a sign of what's to come. There's going to be nights where teams aren't going to want Jason and Jaylen to beat them, where they're just all over Kristaps, or Kristaps is playing, whatever the case may be. And Derrick's going to have to be ready. And look, both ends of stock exchange were ready tonight. I just think there's going to be a real opportunity for Derrick to leave his imprint moving forward. He has been fantastic all season long. One number that seems to have come down among all his lofty numbers is his how many touches and usage he's getting in the fourth quarter. I'd love to see that start to go back up. Feels like so much good happens when Derrick White has the ball in his hands. It's also helpful when his defense is leading to transition opportunities going the other way, and the Celtics certainly took advantage of that on Tuesday night. But eager to see exactly what lies ahead. I think if you ask me like what the roadmap to the Celtics winning an NBA title is, and like what's most important along the way, well, Kristaps Porzingis being healthy and providing that interior offense to complement the Celtics' barrage of three-point shooting. Obviously the Jays have got to be great. They got to make right decisions. They got to provide the scoring output that we've seen for much of the year. They got to impact the game beyond scoring, whether that's rebounding, whether that's playmaking, whether that's taking care of the basketball, all those things. But to me, and Drew Holiday's got to be great defensively, and he's going to give you a lot of versatility, given all the potential intriguing matchups the Celtics might run into. But I just feel like Derrick is going to be sort of in it all. And if the Celtics are going to hit their ultimate level of success, if they are going to chase Banner 18, Derrick has got to be a key part of it. And it might just ultimately be that good things happen when he's on the court. And maybe you just got to have him out there more often than not. Sort of the same way we feel about Tatum when the Celtics sometimes it feels like you just got to have him out there because he's going to be in the positive for plus minus. He's going to win those minutes. And Derrick could be key in whatever lies ahead for these Celtics. He was certainly key on this night, and the numbers suggest he has been key all season long. Here's more from our postgame show.
Derrick, second night of a back-to-back.
Oh, are you guys doing an interview? I didn't notice. I hadn't seen, Derrick, a white kill Jazz like that since Ryan Gosling in La La Land.
It was a pretty sweet move.
He was just shooting every shot, and it was awesome. Yeah, there you go.
I do enjoy Ryan Gosling. What kind of rhythm did you find knocking down 7 threes in this game?
I don't know. I mean, I've been struggling a little bit, and I told my dad I was just going to let it fly, and that's what I did today.
You guys, on the second night of a back-to-back, as I was saying, come in here playing at altitude without 3 of your top 6. They cut it to 2, and you guys went on a 20-0 run. What did this one take?
They're a good team. They never give up. Obviously, well coached, shout out Hardy. But we just stay with it, made plays, and it's a good road win.
Derrick, all 5 guys guys who started this game finished in double figures, and then you got Peyton. You also have X and O'Shea coming off the bench and pulling down rebounds. How deep is this team?
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it all year, but I mean, those guys put in a lot of work, and they're always ready for us. So shout out to everybody for staying ready, and we got a lot of trust in them, and they do so many little things for us.
Finally, you guys closed this road trip out with a winning record, 3-2. What do you like best about what you've gotten back to over these last 3?
We're just trying to get better each game. I mean, obviously we've been on the road for a little bit, and just trying to get better. I mean, playing good teams and having fun with it.
So Ryan Gosling, you're not just Ken then, are you? Not for this team?
I'm honest, I haven't seen La La Land.
Or Barbie. No, I was doing a Barbie reference.
Barbie? I have seen Barbie. I don't
Just Ken. I'm kidding. Thank you. Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
That turned into movie trivia very quickly. Drew Carter and also Eddie House joining us live from Utah. The Celtics finishing out this 5-game road trip, 3-2. Eddie, what did you like best about the Celtics on this road trip?
I thought that they finished strong, right? You started off a little shaky with your defense, but the defense closed it out here, especially in this game. Only 16 points in the fourth quarter. Half of the quarter, the Jazz didn't score, and every shot was contested. They kept them off the glass. It's one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the league. Kept them off the glass, and I thought they had extreme energy late in the game. And Scal kind of hit on it when he was talking about, you know, at the end of the road trip, you could easily start thinking about just getting home and let go of the rope. This team has not done that.
And I like what Scal said, too, about how Portland would make a run and the Celtics would maintain focus. I mean, I feel like this has happened at least once in every game on the 5-game road trip where the Celtics fans start to get loud in the visiting arena. We hear a "Let's go Celtics" chant. That's happened now 5 out of 5 games on the road trip. And then all of a sudden the home fans, they get into it because they're like, this is our building. We want to represent. We want to defend it. And then the team goes on a run. That happened when it was 93-91. And Jordan Clarkson was starting to heat up. Jazz had it as close as it had been really since the opening minutes. How did the Celtics respond? 20-0 run between the end of the third quarter and the beginning of the fourth. I mean, I thought that was incredibly impressive.
And I just want to flip it over to Scal because that was an impressive run at the end of the third going into the fourth. Scal, how did this change the game?
Yeah, I was wondering on a back-to-back, are they going to lose their steam? But what a great response. Eddie, when you're watching this game, watching this thing unfold, do you feel like the Celtics were losing it a little bit in the fourth? Or were you always confident that they were going to put on, not a 20-0 run, but definitely ultimately get to the win tonight?
Yeah, they had energy out there, so I didn't see anybody lacking energy or playing with a lack of force. They were playing downhill, trying to either get to the basket, get into the paint. And I thought in the fourth quarter, you talk about sliding your feet, playing good defense, contested shots, up until they finally scored. There was not anything easy for the Jazz. Everything was tough, contested, and they had to work for everything for every attempt that they got in that fourth quarter. So I was very impressed at the fact that we didn't let go of the rope. We did not slow down at all. We played a lot better in the fourth quarter, I thought, than we did in that second quarter.
Drew, what's the record for the Lucky Vest?
2-0, baby. I'm going to pop this collar. I'm going to strut up those things.
Hold up. You talked that vest up like it was some magical apparel before the game. It was 1-0?
Dang. Just 1-0 in the vest,
Forsberg,
2-0
the only
now.
number that matters is the O in the L column. Hey, real quick on the way out here. Number one, we got to give some love to Luke Cornett for that joke. I mean, he was definitely cooking that up on a flight because that was so good. And that's legit stand-up comedy material.
But was Cody went over my head? I didn't get it.
Me either.
I guess you would have to have seen La La Land because I didn't see La La Land.
Look, Drew, you can explain it to us.
Drew, you want to lead it?
You got it.
Lead it to us, Similac boy.
Yeah, explain it to us, please. Break it down.
Hang on. You guys are trying to mess with me. I understand what's going on here. Number two, how do the Blazers and Jazz both have a mascot that looks like Chewbacca?
Oh,
They
my
both
God.
do. Did you see that? If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Douglas Fir, Blazers mascot, and Jazz Bear, Jazz mascot. They both look like Chewbacca.
But Portland is he's Bigfoot. That's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
That's a Sasquatch.
Oh, man.
It's a Wookiee, I'm telling you.
You see the Celtics this season with 15 games where they've scored 70 or more in the first half. They are 15-0 this season when they scored that much in the first half of these games. Scal, why was it important for the Celtics to jump out like that in this matchup against the Utah Jazz?
Yeah, you never know how a team is going to respond in the second half of a back-to-back, and I just thought that we had the right energy. I think back-to-back game, I'm loving these two games together, but our energy throughout this game was great. We really moved the basketball, especially in the first half of both games. Remember in the Portland game, we had 20 assists, only 1 turnover. In this game, after the first quarter, we only had 1 turnover, and that was a desperation pass by Peyton Pritchard at the end. So Celtics taking care of the ball, getting great shots, inside, outside. When they're doing that, they're going to be really tough to stop.
It sort of feels like this has been the script for most of the season. It feels like a lot of games where Celtics have a big first half, build that big lead, things get a little dicey in the third quarter, but never to the point where you think they're going to let go of the rope. And so that's a testament to this team that even when they had the good third quarters, they just kind of find a way to stick with it and get through it. There was a lot of times last couple of years we'd be sitting here going, oh man, here goes this lead, they're going to blow this or whatever, and it doesn't feel like that happens anymore. You just have confidence that they're going to eventually settle themselves down, find a way to get it going again. Got to do that against the best of the best, but they finished this trip strong in that regard.
I know we talk about how important that third quarter is for this Celtics team, but also for teams that are looking for an NBA title. But Scal, just why is it important specifically for the Celtics to get off to a hot start, especially as we get down the stretch of the regular season and then go into the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like establishes who you are.
Yeah.
Like I think, to me, I look at Jaylen Brown as a guy that could really set us off going the right direction in the first quarter. I love the way we've been passing the ball, but, like there are certain guys that are first quarter guys, and every team has them. I think Jaylen Brown's that. I mean, Jaylen Brown could dominate throughout the game, but he seems to play with a lot of moxie and energy in that first quarter. So for our team, it's having that first quarter identity. What are you going to go to? Some teams like to move the ball side to side and execute. A high-level championship team knows exactly how they want to start the game. And I think that's important heading into the playoffs.
And Celtics were able to do that without Jaylen Brown on the floor tonight. Let's transition to the threes. The Celtics 20 of 49 from beyond the arc. Forsberg, what gave Utah so much trouble in defending that three-point line against the Celtics?
Well, same deal. So you heard Derrick White say he told his dad he was going to let it fly tonight. He was true to his word. Jason Tatum had it going on in the first quarter. And just once it seems like somebody lights the fuse, it's just everyone kind of gets a little bit of it. And so the ball movement was great, getting some good looks, but you don't got to give Sam a lot of space to get going. Tatum, when he's firing away like that, they're just shooting confidently, And again, I just think it snowballs. Once someone makes one, you're all kind of feeling it. When you're getting fancy with it like that, it tends to snowball.
Yeah, I thought appropriate aggression to pass, yet still look to score. Sometimes you can overpass, you can get caught up in the ball movement. I did not feel like the Celtics were like that today, that perfect balance. And the percentage of 20 for 49 is a reflection of that.
And also, it just felt like the Utah Jazz, Scal, they couldn't do anything with that three-point line with the Celtics. That just like the movement on the court, the assist that plays into that, how does that work?
If you can't stop people on the perimeter, driving the ball, and now you have to help, and now you're in rotation, you're going to lose. That's just how the NBA works. So when you look at the Utah Jazz, they don't have anybody that can guard the perimeter. What makes us special is we got a lot of guys that you don't actually have to help on. So it allows you to stay home, it allows you to get back out to those shooters. But Utah can't they can't get into the ball. They have to gap guys. They have to have a proper space, you would call it, defending a guy, which will eventually open up the three-point shot.
And Derrick White also 7 of 11 from beyond the arc. Forsberg, I shouldn't be surprised at this point when Derrick White is able to shoot like that in these types of games, but how big did he come up from beyond the arc for the Celtics?
Yeah, no, it was just weird that he was struggling so much with that shot to start the trip. He had some great looks at the beginning in Cleveland and then in Denver. You would have thought being back home in Denver, like he would have had a quality night that night. Just took him a little while to kind of find it, but you knew it wasn't going to persist very long. He's been so good with that shot all season long, all last year. And so, but it is good to see him, especially on a night where you don't have Jaylen Brown, where you needed another bit of offensive punch, that he could step up and give you the sort of scoring that you need in that situation. We've seen instances of it. The Miami game I always go back to earlier in the year, and he certainly had other big nights, but it's just refreshing when he knows what to give the game, right? Like most nights, he's just trying to create for others, doing his defensive thing, but tonight he needed to give a little bit more on the scoring end.
Yeah, one thing about Derrick White, I always feel like the better we pass the ball, so I'm not talking one passing shot, I'm talking about really moving the ball with aggressiveness to get to the paint, kick, extra pass, maybe a second drive. I feel like Derrick White always shoots the ball well. Some guys need to touch the ball multiple times on a possession. And when Derrick White's doing that, and I feel Al Horford's another guy that's like that. When those two are touching the ball, giving it up, getting it back, I feel like their percentage goes up. And I felt like there was a lot of possessions today where Derrick White was touching the ball multiple times, and usually on that second one, he'd let that thing fly and knock it down.
Does the approach change for you at all when you're in that starting lineup and you know that you guys are down 2 bigs?
I think you're just a little prepared for, just more playing time. And, it's fun to get out there at the start of the game and be able to play with some of the starters. And obviously Sam was out there too. But yeah, it was a fun start to the game and just fun knowing you're kind of out there and going to have multiple stints at it and kind of get into the flow of the game a little more.
How much emphasis was put on the rim and rebounding tonight, especially against that Jazz team?
That's something that I'm always trying to bring, and I feel like we did a great job of just fighting for that shot margin, and whether it's taking care of the ball or getting offensive rebounds. I feel like all our wings, Shea was great, Xavier, myself. I feel like just trying to get extra shots at it, and unfortunately we were able to shoot the ball really well tonight, but kind of be able to have those other things too that when they're not falling, give us extra chances at it.
When did you decide to just stop shooting three-pointers?
It's kind of slowly just happened. I feel like now I'm just at the point where in the positions I'm trying to get to, and I feel like also really kind of just embracing offensive rebounding and that kind of thing. It's kind of happened this year, and last year I tried a couple, but it was kind of even then too. I don't know. I'm still open to shooting them, if need be and stuff. But I just feel like, for the most part, with the positions that I'm in, and also just for getting the best shots for our team. I've got to shoot one so far, I guess. So, that's kind of where we're at.
How do you kind of explain this recent flurry of dunks? It seems like they're finding you a lot on the lob recently.
I feel like part of it, is just kind of the coverages that have been played, and I feel like a great thing of our team is that it might just look a little different every game, depending on what kind of coverage the team's choosing to go to, and there's not any kind of perfect answer, but I do feel like I keep kind of getting better in this role and trying to figure things out and putting myself in those positions, and we've got a great team of passers that draw a lot of attention too, so it's it takes a lot of stress to try to shut down some of our guys, and that just opens things up for me. And so sometimes it's me, sometimes it's open shooters, or sometimes it's just the ball handler being able to make the play. Yeah.
Depth was on display tonight. Joe mentioned that you and X had never played together. How are you guys able to make the most of the opportunities whenever your number is called?
Honestly, these games I feel like are a lot of fun if we're down a couple starters. A lot for that aspect of just certain guys being able to play a little bit more in different lineups and just being able to figure it out. And it's been nice with having Xavier around in terms of he's been able to play some, and then also just with working out and understanding him as a player. And I think he's also just a smart, intelligent player. So you just kind of fit in, and I think Joe gives us a lot of instills a lot of trust for us to just make calls on our own and try to figure it out. And so I think the more and more time we kind of spend with each other, everyone's kind of on that page, and you kind of all get on the same wavelength. The more and more time you have together.
Next up, Celtics are back home. I'm trying to do the math in my head. So if they leave Utah, say midnight local time, even if that plane is hustling 3 hours in the air back to Hanscom, on the ground at maybe 5 a.m. with the time change. Try to rest up on Wednesday and dust yourself off and be ready on Thursday, because in comes a Phoenix Suns squad that you beat just a few days earlier, a potentially healthier Phoenix Suns squad. I believe Devin Booker could be back for that matchup. You suspect that Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant will be there. We know what Durant did the other night. Celtics are going to have to bring the focus. That's always a tough game. First game home after a long road trip. You finally got a night in your own bed, but you haven't been home a whole lot. So Celtics have got to sort of manufacture some energy. Got to make sure they're ready for the Suns, especially if Booker's back out there. Eager to see how that looks defensively. The other night they had to kind of cobble it together and figure out how to try to slow down Durant. It's a lot easier to do when you don't have a Booker out there. So eager to see what kind of defense the Celtics can bring that night. Bring this podcast full circle. Sure feels like Derrick White and Drew Holiday could be vital to that and that success on Thursday night. We'll be right here with you for it. Go like, go subscribe, go check us out on the YouTube page. We're right back with you later this week here on the Postgame Pod.